My name is Robert, and for 20 years, my professional life has been a quiet conversation about the future. At 48, I was a senior wealth advisor at Stanton and Pierce, a firm whose name was a byword for quiet, old money integrity in the financial heart of Chicago. My job was not to chase fleeting trends or promise astronomical returns. It was to be a steward. I helped people build and, more importantly, preserve the wealth they had spent their lives creating. My clients weren't just account numbers, they were families. I had helped them plan for their children's college, navigate the complexities of retirement, and set up trusts for their grandchildren. The foundation of my work was not a hot stock tip. It was a deep, unshakable, personal trust, cultivated over decades of prudent, conservative advice. The firm was founded by Harold Stanton, a man of immense integrity, who believed that a wealth advisor's primary duty was a fiduciary one, a sacred obligation to act in the client's best interest, always. He had hired me 2 decades ago, not because I was a brilliant salesman, but because he said I had the temperament of a gardener, not a hunter. I was patient, I was methodical, and I believed in long-term growth. The unspoken promise, as he neared retirement, was that I and the other senior partners would carry on the firm's conservative, client-first philosophy. The ground began to shift when Harold finally retired. His children, who had no interest in the firm, sold it to Vector Financial, a fast-growing, aggressive fintech company from the West Coast. Vector's business model was the polar opposite of ours. They were disruptors, a company built on algorithms, high-risk proprietary funds, and a relentless, high-pressure sales culture. Their arrival was jarring. The quiet, wood-paneled dignity of our offices was soon replaced with bright, modern furniture, large screens displaying blinking market data, and a new, frenetic energy. The personification of this new era was a young man named Derek. He was introduced as the new head of the advisory division, making him our boss. He was 28 years old, with a slick, gelled haircut, a wardrobe of trendy, tie-less suits, and the hyper-confident, fast-talking demeanor of a crypto evangelist. His claim to fame, we learned, was making a fortune day-trading cryptocurrency during its last bull run. He saw our steady, reliable portfolios of blue-chip stocks and municipal bonds, not as a source of stability, but as a collection of lazy, underperforming assets. His first firm-wide meeting was a declaration of war on our entire philosophy. He stood before a group of us advisors with decades of combined experience and spoke to us as if we were clueless relics. "Team," he began, pacing in front of a giant screen displaying Vector's flashy logo. "The old model of wealth management is dead. We are no longer just advisors, we are wealth activators. Our clients don't want to just preserve their capital, they want to see exponential growth. To achieve that, we are rolling out a new firm-wide strategy. We will be transitioning our clients out of their legacy portfolios and into Vector's suite of proprietary investment vehicles." He pulled up a slide showcasing their flagship products: the Vector Hypergrowth Tech Fund, the Vector Disruptor Fund, and, most alarmingly, the Vector Digital Asset Alpha Fund, which was almost entirely invested in volatile cryptocurrencies and NFTs. These funds, I noted, all came with significantly higher management fees than the low-cost index funds we had always recommended. To incentivize this transition, he continued, a shark-like smile on his face, we are implementing a new commission structure. Advisors will receive a significant bonus for every dollar of client assets moved into a Vector proprietary fund. It's time to get hungry, people. It's time to sell. I felt a cold, sickening dread creep into my stomach. He was transforming us from trusted fiduciaries into high-pressure salespeople, incentivized to push our clients into risky, high-fee products that primarily benefited the company, not them. I raised my hand. "Derek," I said, my voice calm. "Many of our clients, particularly our retirees, have a very low risk tolerance. Their primary goal is capital preservation. These funds seem excessively volatile for that demographic." He gave me a condescending look, the kind a teacher might give to a particularly slow student. "Robert," he said, drawing out my name, "that's the old way of thinking. We need to educate our clients, to get them comfortable with a higher level of risk, to achieve a higher level of reward. It's our job to expand their horizons." The final, brutal blow came at the end of the meeting. Finally, Derek announced, "To streamline our operations and better serve our entire client base, we are launching the Vector Plus automated advisory platform. All client accounts with under $1 million in managed assets will be migrated to this new robo-advisor platform. This will free up our human advisors to focus on our high-net-worth clients, which is a more efficient allocation of our resources." I stared at him, my disbelief turning to a quiet, seething fury. Over half of my clients, people I had worked with for 20 years, fell into that category. There was Mrs. Gable, a retired schoolteacher whose life savings I had carefully managed to ensure she would never outlive her money. There was the Thompson family, for whom I had set up a college savings plan for their 2 children. These were not just accounts, they were people, families who had placed their trust, their entire financial futures, in my hands. And Derek was proposing to abandon them, to hand them over to an algorithm so that I could spend my time chasing bigger fish. It was more than a bad business decision. It was a profound ethical breach. It was a complete abdication of the sacred fiduciary duty that was the very cornerstone of our profession. I looked around the room at my fellow senior advisors. I saw the same look of shock and disgust on their faces. Derek finished his presentation with a final, cluelessly optimistic statement. "This is the future of wealth management, team. Let's get on board and start activating that wealth." I walked back to my office, the blood pounding in my ears. I thought of Harold Stanton and his simple, powerful belief in putting the client first. I thought of Mrs. Gable and the promise I had made to her that I would always be there to guide her. Derek wasn't just changing our strategy. He was asking me to break a sacred trust. He was asking me to sell out my clients, to sell out my own principles. And I knew, with an absolute and unwavering certainty, that it was a price I was unwilling to pay. The days following Derek's announcement felt like living in a foreign country where a language I once knew had been twisted into an unrecognizable new dialect. The quiet, collegial atmosphere of Stanton and Pierce was gone, replaced by a tense, divided energy. The younger advisors, lured by the promise of hefty commissions, embraced the new mandate with a predatory zeal. Their conversations were now peppered with crypto slang and aggressive sales tactics. The veteran advisors, my contemporaries, moved through the office like ghosts, our faces grim, our conversations held in hushed, worried tones behind closed doors. The soul of our firm was being auctioned off, and we were being forced to watch. My first one-on-one meeting with Derek was a masterclass in his new philosophy. I sat in my own office, a space I had occupied for over a decade, and felt like an intruder as he sat opposite me, radiating an aura of impatient, unearned authority. "Robert," he began, tapping on his tablet, "I've reviewed your client roster. You have a significant number of sub-$1 million accounts. We need to begin the migration process to the Vector Plus platform by the end of the quarter. I've had the marketing team draft a standardized email you can send to inform them of this exciting new upgrade to their service." He swiped the tablet to show me the email. It was a masterpiece of corporate spin, full of cheerful, empty phrases about enhanced digital access and a streamlined, next-generation user experience. It didn't mention that they would be losing their human advisor. It didn't mention that their life savings would now be managed by an algorithm. I pushed the tablet back across the desk. "Derek, I can't send this," I said, my voice quiet but firm. "My relationship with these clients is built on a foundation of personal trust. Many of them, like Mrs. Gable, are retirees in their 70s and 80s. They don't want an enhanced digital experience. They want to be able to call the person who knows their history, who understands their fears about outliving their money. To hand them off to a robo-advisor without their explicit, informed consent is a breach of my fiduciary duty." Derek sighed, a theatrical display of a visionary burdened by the short-sightedness of his underlings. "Robert, you're thinking with your heart, not with your head. This is an issue of scale. We can't afford to provide bespoke, human-led service to low-margin accounts. It's not a sustainable model. The Vector Plus platform is a state-of-the-art tool that will manage their portfolios effectively." "A tool doesn't understand a client's fear of a market downturn," I countered. "A tool can't talk a widow through her first holiday season alone and reassure her that her financial future is secure. That is the service they signed up for. That is the service they have been paying for." "Well," he said, his tone hardening, "the terms of service are changing. This isn't a debate. It's a corporate directive. I need you to get these clients transitioned. If you're unwilling to do so, I'll have to reassign them to an advisor who is more aligned with the firm's forward-thinking strategy." The threat was clear. Fall in line or be pushed out. I left that meeting with a cold, hard certainty. There was no room for compromise. My principles and the firm's new philosophy were fundamentally incompatible. That evening, I arranged to have a drink with Helen Ramirez and David Chen, 2 of the most senior and respected advisors at the firm. We met at a quiet old bar near the Board of Trade, a place that felt like a relic from a more honorable era of finance. Helen, a sharp, empathetic advisor who managed the portfolios of 3 generations of the same families, was already nursing a glass of wine. He wants me to push my 80-year-old clients into a crypto fund, she said, her voice a mixture of disbelief and disgust. He called their portfolio of municipal bonds dead money. These people are living on that dead money, Robert. David, a man who had been Harold Stanton's right hand for 30 years, looked defeated. Harold would be spinning in his grave, he rumbled. He used to say that a client's peace of mind was our most valuable asset. This new model, it's designed to create anxiety, to push people into making rash decisions for a quick commission. It's everything he built this firm to stand against. He's given me an ultimatum, I said, recounting my meeting with Derek. Transition my smaller clients to the robo-advisor, or he'll reassign them. He's asking me to abandon them. We sat in a shared, somber silence. We were three captains of a ship whose new owners were demanding we steer it directly into an iceberg. So, what's the play? Helen asked finally, her sharp gaze moving between David and me. Do we just quit, retire, let these sharks have it? If we just quit, I said, our clients get left behind anyway. They'll be handed over to some young kid who will immediately try to sell them on Vector's latest high-fee product. We have a duty to them that extends beyond the name on our business cards. It was David who said the words that would change everything. He leaned forward, his voice low and serious. There is another option, he said. We don't have to work for them. We could start our own firm, an independent registered investment advisor, an RIA. The idea hung in the air, both terrifying and electrifying. An RIA was a firm legally bound by the fiduciary standard, the very standard Vector was abandoning. We would be free from corporate mandates, free to offer our clients any product on the market, not just the proprietary funds we were being forced to sell. We would be able to serve our clients our way. But the capital required, Helen began. The legal hurdles, the compliance. It's a mountain, David conceded, but we have something more valuable than Vector's venture capital. We have our clients' trust. I would bet that if the three of us walked out that door, 70% of our combined assets under management would walk out with us. Our clients are loyal to us, not to a brand name that has been hijacked by a bunch of tech cowboys. He was right. The thought was staggering. We weren't just three employees. We were a business in exile. Our relationships, built over decades of trust, were our leverage. We could do it, I said, the idea taking root and growing with astonishing speed. We could build a firm on the very principles that Stanton and Pierce was founded on, a place where the client's best interest is the only thing that matters. A firm for clients, not just for high-net-worth individuals, Helen added, a spark returning to her eyes. A place for Mrs. Gable. We spent the next 2 hours sketching out the beginnings of a plan on a cocktail napkin. We talked about a lean operational model, about a simple, transparent fee structure, about a name for our new venture. The despair that had been weighing us down was replaced by a surge of creative, defiant energy. We were no longer victims of a hostile takeover. We were the architects of a rescue mission. We left the bar that night with a shared, unspoken pact. We would continue to go to work at Stanton and Pierce. We would continue to protect our clients from the inside, for as long as we could. But our real work would begin at night. We would secretly begin to draft the business plan, consult with lawyers, and build the foundation for our own, independent future. I went home and, for the first time in weeks, I didn't feel a sense of dread about the next day. I felt a sense of purpose. Derek had given me an ultimatum: get in line or be pushed out. He had no idea I was about to choose a third option, to build a new line altogether. Our lives became a study in clandestine operations. By day, we were ghosts in the Vector financial machine, performing our duties with a detached, robotic precision. We became masters of malicious compliance. When Derek held meetings to push the new proprietary funds, we would ask pointed, technical questions about risk assessment and fee structures, framing them as due diligence, but really intending to plant seeds of doubt in the minds of our more thoughtful colleagues. When instructed to begin socializing the robo-advisor transition with our clients, we would inform them of the upcoming platform change in the most neutral, jargon-free language possible, always ending with the promise: but for now, you and I will continue to manage your portfolio directly. We were walking a tightrope, fulfilling our contractual obligations while subtly protecting our clients and our own integrity. But our real work began at night. We turned David's quiet, book-lined home study into our war room. 3 nights a week, and all day on Sundays, we would gather, the air thick with the smell of coffee and the urgent, focused energy of a mission. We were no longer just 3 advisors. We were the founding partners of an enterprise that was slowly, meticulously, being willed into existence. The task was monumental, a mountain of legal, financial, and philosophical work. David, with his years of experience navigating the firm's back-end operations, took the lead on the legal and compliance structure. I watched in awe as he dove into the labyrinth of SEC regulations required to form an independent registered investment advisor, RIA. It was a world of ADV forms, compliance manuals, and custodial agreements, a bureaucratic fortress designed to be impenetrable. But David was relentless, spending hours on the phone with lawyers, patiently untangling every knot. Helen, with her deep empathy and understanding of our clients' anxieties, took charge of crafting our client-facing identity. She wrote our Form CRS, the new client relationship summary mandated by the SEC, turning a dry legal document into a clear, powerful statement of our values. She designed our fee structure, a simple, transparent model based on a percentage of assets under management, with no hidden commissions or incentives to sell particular products. Our only product, she said, her voice full of conviction, is trust. My role was to define the very soul of our new firm, our investment philosophy. I spent weeks crafting our model portfolios, building them from the ground up based on decades of market history and sound academic principles. I created conservative portfolios for clients like Mrs. Gable, designed for capital preservation and steady income. I built balanced portfolios for families saving for college and more growth-oriented models for our younger clients. Each one was built on a foundation of diversification, low-cost index funds, and a deep-seated belief in the power of long-term, patient investing. It was the antithesis of Derek's high-risk, high-fee, crypto-fueled fantasy. The entire document was a quiet, powerful rebuke of everything Vector stood for. We needed a name. We spent an entire evening debating it, scribbling ideas on a whiteboard. We wanted something that conveyed our principles. Clarity, fiduciary, stewardship. That last one resonated. Stewardship Advisory Group, I said, trying it out. It felt right. It wasn't flashy. It was solid, responsible, and serious. It was everything we wanted to be. The urgency of our mission was underscored by the continued decay of the culture at our day job. Derek's new sales-driven model was in full swing. He announced a firm-wide sales contest for the month, offering a 5-figure bonus and a weekend trip to Las Vegas to the advisor who moved the highest percentage of their clients' assets into the Vector Digital Asset Alpha Fund. It was a grotesque, explicit incentive to put the firm's interests ahead of our clients. I witnessed the inevitable result one afternoon. A younger advisor, a hungry kid named Mark who had fully embraced the new ethos, was in a conference room with a couple in their early 60s. I recognized them. They had been clients of the firm for years, moderately conservative investors preparing for retirement. I couldn't hear the whole conversation, but I heard enough. I heard Mark using words like paradigm shift, asymmetric upside, and the future of finance. I saw him showing them a flashy chart on his tablet with a hockey stick growth projection. The next day, I saw the trade confirmation. The couple had liquidated nearly half of their stable dividend-paying stock portfolio and moved it into the crypto fund. I couldn't stay silent. I caught Mark in the break room later that day. "Mark," I said, keeping my voice low, "the Wilsons. I saw you move them into the digital asset fund. You know their risk profile is moderately conservative, right? That fund is classified as highly speculative." He looked at me with a defensive arrogance. "I educated them on the potential for exponential growth," he said. "They understood the risk and were excited about the opportunity. It's not our job to be paternalistic, Robert. It's our job to present the best products. It's our job to be fiduciaries," I countered. "To make recommendations that are in the client's absolute best interest. You put their retirement at risk for a shot at a trip to Vegas. I put them in the firm's highest performing fund," he sneered. "Maybe if you weren't so stuck in the past, you'd be able to do the same for your clients." He walked away, leaving me standing there, a cold fury rising in my chest. This wasn't just a difference in philosophy anymore. This was a moral rot. That night, our work in David's study felt more urgent than ever. We had finally completed our business plan. It was a thick, 80-page document, a comprehensive blueprint for our new firm. It contained our legal structure, our compliance manual, Helen's communication plan, and my detailed investment philosophy. It was the most important thing I had ever helped to build. We sat around David's desk, looking at the finished product. The abstract idea, born out of desperation in a dark bar, had become a concrete, viable, and honorable enterprise. We were no longer just 3 disgruntled advisors. We were the founding partners of Stewardship Advisory Group. "It's ready," Helen said, her voice a mixture of awe and exhaustion. It's perfect, David added. The final piece of the puzzle, the last step before we could pull the trigger and resign, was to establish our operational infrastructure. We couldn't take our clients' money without having a safe place to put it. David picked up the phone. Okay, he said, taking a deep breath. Time to make the first official call. He dialed the number for the Institutional Services Division of Charles Schwab, one of the largest and most respected custodians for independent advisory firms. Yes, hello, he said, his voice calm and professional. My name is David Chen. I'm a founding partner of a new RIA, Stewardship Advisory Group. I'd like to speak with someone about establishing an institutional partnership. I looked at Helen. She met my gaze, a look of steely resolve in her eyes. The quiet rebellion was over. The exodus was about to begin. We had built our ark, and we were finally ready to see if it would float. The weeks following our first call to Charles Schwab were a blur of high-stakes, clandestine activity. While we continued our charade at Stanton and Pierce, our evenings and weekends were consumed with the final, frantic steps of building our new reality. We signed an agreement with Schwab to act as the custodian for our clients' assets, a crucial piece of infrastructure that gave us legitimacy. We found a modest, functional office space for lease in a less flashy but respectable building a few blocks away. And, with the help of our lawyers, we officially registered Stewardship Advisory Group as a legal entity. The lifeboat we had designed on a cocktail napkin was now a real seaworthy vessel, ready for its maiden voyage. The only thing left to do was to untie the ropes that bound us to the sinking ship. We chose a Friday morning to resign. The plan was coordinated and precise. We would act in sequence, 15 minutes apart, to prevent Derek from containing the situation. David would go first, then Helen, then me. At 9 a.m., I watched David walk into Derek's glass-walled office. A few minutes later, I saw Derek's posture stiffen, his confident slouch replaced by a rigid, upright shock. David emerged, his face calm, and walked back to his office. At 9:15, Helen did the same. Through the glass, I could see Derek was now on his feet, pacing, his face a mask of furious disbelief. At 9:30, it was my turn. I walked into his office, my own letter of resignation in hand. The air was thick with tension. Don't even bother, Derek snapped before I could speak, gesturing to the two other letters already on his desk. Let me guess. You're joining your little book club. This is some kind of pathetic, coordinated tantrum. I placed my letter on top of the pile. This is my formal resignation, Derek, I said, my voice even. I am leaving to co-found an independent advisory firm where I can continue to uphold my fiduciary duty to my clients. He laughed, a sharp, humorless sound. Fiduciary duty? You're abandoning the firm, and you want to lecture me about duty? This is a betrayal, Robert. A premeditated, unprofessional act of sabotage. The betrayal, I replied, my voice dangerously quiet, was when this firm decided its primary duty was to its own bottom line, not to the financial well-being of the people who trust us. The betrayal was your plan to push retirees into speculative crypto funds and to abandon our smaller clients to an algorithm. His face flushed a deep red. You are finished in this industry, he hissed, his voice low and shaking with rage. I will personally see to it. You signed a non-solicitation agreement. If you so much as call one of your old clients, Vector's legal team will sue you into the ground. We will make sure you never work as an advisor again. I am well aware of my legal obligations, I said, and I have no intention of violating them. I turned to leave. You're a fool, Robert, he called after me, his voice cracking slightly. You're a dinosaur. You're throwing away a 20-year career out of some misguided, sentimental nonsense. You'll be begging for your job back in 6 months. I didn't look back. The three of us met at David's office. We didn't need to speak. We packed our few personal belongings, the contents of our long careers fitting into small cardboard boxes. As I walked through the office for the last time, I saw the younger advisors staring at us, a mixture of fear and awe in their eyes. We were doing the unthinkable. We were walking away. Our first day as unemployed founders was spent in our new empty office. It was a modest space, with beige walls and a view of a brick building. We had 3 folding chairs and a single folding table we'd bought that morning. It was the most beautiful office I had ever seen. The aggressive, threatening letter from Vector's lawyers arrived that afternoon, just as Derek had promised. But we were ready. Our own lawyer had already prepared our response. And we began the most critical and delicate phase of our plan, informing our clients. We followed the broker protocol to the letter. We did not solicit. We simply sent a legally vetted, 1-page letter to the clients we had served for years. It was a simple, factual announcement. It stated that we had resigned from Stanton and Pierce to form our own independent firm, Stewardship Advisory Group. It provided our new office address and phone number, and it ended with a simple, powerful line: "We wish you the best in your financial future." Then, we waited. The next morning, we sat in our empty office, around our folding table, a single, new business phone line between us. The silence was deafening. Had we made a catastrophic miscalculation? Had we overestimated our client's loyalty? At 9:15 a.m., the phone rang. We all jumped. I picked it up, my heart pounding. "Stewardship Advisory Group. This is Robert." "Robert!" Thank God. The voice was warm, familiar, and full of relief. It was Mrs. Gable, the retired schoolteacher. "I received your letter." I was so worried. I got another letter from that old place, talking about some new platform. I didn't understand it. "Are you all right? Where did you go?" "I'm fine, Mrs. Gable," I said, a wave of emotion washing over me. "My partners and I have started our own firm, a new home." "Well, then my account needs to move to your new home," she said, with the simple, unwavering certainty of a woman who knew who she trusted. "Tell me what I need to sign." I'm not letting some computer or some new young man I've never met handle Harold Stanton's promise to me. "You are my advisor, Robert. The building you're in is irrelevant." Before I had even finished my call with her, our second line, which we had forwarded to Helen's cell phone, began to ring. It was one of her clients. Then David's phone rang. The calls did not stop all day. It was a deluge, a tidal wave of support. The Thompson family called, wanting to move their children's college funds. A successful surgeon called, furious about the new direction at Vector, and asked us to transfer his entire multi-million-dollar portfolio. The story was the same, over and over. "We trust you, Robert." "I'm with you, Helen. Let's get this done, David." By the end of the day, we had filled a yellow legal pad with the names of clients who were initiating the process to transfer their accounts. We weren't just a new firm anymore. We were a destination. We were a sanctuary for the financially abandoned. We sat in our small office as the sun set, the room littered with takeout containers and empty coffee cups, the phone still ringing periodically. We were exhausted, overwhelmed, and triumphant. Derek had thought our clients were assets of the firm, entries on a spreadsheet that he owned. He had never understood that the real asset was the trust we had spent our entire careers building. He had threatened to sue us, to ruin us. He had no idea that our clients, with their quiet, unwavering loyalty, were the only army we would ever need. The exodus had begun. The first 3 months of Stewardship Advisory Group were a blur of controlled chaos and profound purpose. We had underestimated the sheer velocity of our clients' loyalty. The trickle of calls we had hoped for became a flood, an overwhelming torrent of trust that was both exhilarating and terrifying. Our small, temporary office, with its folding table and mismatched chairs, became the command center for a massive logistical operation. The transfer of hundreds of millions of dollars in life savings from the cold, corporate clutches of Vector Financial into our new, independent sanctuary. The workload was immense. We were no longer just advisors, we were now the entire back office. We spent 16-hour days on the phone, not with clients, but with the administrative departments of Vector, navigating a bureaucratic maze of transfer paperwork that I suspected was being deliberately slow-walked. We were also business owners, making decisions about everything from our new office's internet provider to the type of coffee we'd offer our future guests. We would often work late into the night, sharing a pizza on a stack of moving boxes, too tired to speak, but bound by a shared electrifying sense of creation. We moved into our permanent office space a month after we resigned. It was a modest but dignified suite of rooms, with large windows overlooking a quiet, tree-lined street. It had none of the flashy, ostentatious design of the Vector offices, but it felt solid, real, and most importantly, ours. The day the sign was installed on our door, a simple, elegant plaque that read Stewardship Advisory Group, I felt a surge of pride so powerful it almost brought me to tears. We had built this. The culture of our new firm was a direct reflection of our shared philosophy. Our meetings were collaborative, our decisions were unanimous, and our only guiding principle was a simple question: what is in the absolute best interest of our client? It was a question that had become anathema at our old firm. The consequences of our exodus for Vector were, as David had predicted, catastrophic. News of the massive, sudden outflow of assets from their newly acquired Chicago branch sent a shockwave through the corporate headquarters. We heard through industry contacts that Derek was in serious trouble. His forward-thinking strategy had backfired, resulting in the immediate loss of nearly $1 billion in managed assets. His high-pressure sales tactics and the forced migration to the robo-advisor platform had not attracted new, high-net-worth clients. It had terrified and alienated the stable, loyal base the firm had been built on. The true test of our principles, and the ultimate vindication of our decision, came on a Tuesday morning in late autumn. The market, which had been jittery for weeks, suddenly plummeted. A cocktail of bad geopolitical news and a worse-than-expected inflation report triggered a massive, market-wide sell-off. It was the kind of day that tests the mettle of every financial advisor. At Vector, I could only imagine the chaos. The proprietary crypto fund, the one Derek and his young acolytes had been pushing so aggressively, had imploded, losing over 60% of its value in a single morning. I thought of the Wilsons, the couple who had been convinced to move half their retirement savings into it. I felt a pang of genuine sickness for them. I knew that Derek and his team would be in full-blown panic mode, either hiding from their clients' frantic calls or trying to spin the disaster with more empty corporate jargon. At Stewardship Advisory Group, the atmosphere was different. It was calm, focused, and purposeful. We were not reacting. We were executing a plan we had been preparing for since day one. We didn't wait for our clients to call us in a panic. We called them. The three of us divided our client lists and began to dial. My first call was to Mrs. Gable. "Robert," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "I'm watching the news. It looks terrible." "It's a rough day in the market, Mrs. Gable," I said, my voice calm and steady. "But it's exactly the kind of day our plan was built for. I'm looking at your portfolio right now. Your bond holdings are stable, and your stocks, while they are down with the rest of the market, are in high-quality dividend-paying companies. We are not going to panic. We are not going to sell. This is the storm we knew would eventually come, and our ship is built to weather it. I just wanted to call and let you know that I am watching things closely, and that our long-term plan is sound." I could hear the relief in her voice as she exhaled. "Oh, thank you, Robert," she said. "I was so frightened. It's good to hear your voice." I had that same conversation over and over all day, with the Thompsons, reassuring them that their children's college funds were secure. With the surgeon, walking him through the tax loss harvesting opportunities the downturn presented. This was the real work of a fiduciary. It wasn't about selling a hot new product. It was about being the calm, rational, and trusted voice in the middle of a storm. Because we had built their portfolios correctly, with a deep understanding of their individual risk tolerance, none of our clients were overexposed. We spent the day not as salesmen, but as counselors, coaches, and stewards. Late that afternoon, I received an email forwarded from an old colleague who was still, for the moment, at Vector. It was a firm-wide memo from the corporate headquarters. It announced that Derek had been placed on administrative leave pending an internal investigation into the advisory practices of the Chicago office, specifically regarding the suitability and marketing of proprietary digital asset funds. The house of cards he had built was collapsing. I finished my last client call as the sun was setting, the market having closed in a sea of red. I looked across our small office. Helen was on the phone, a look of deep, empathetic concern on her face as she spoke with one of her clients. David was at the whiteboard, already mapping out potential rebalancing strategies for the weeks ahead. We were exhausted, but we were not defeated. We had spent the day successfully protecting the financial lives of the people who had placed their trust in us. We had built more than just a successful business. We had built a port in the storm. And in the turbulent, often treacherous world of finance, we knew that was the most valuable asset of all. 2 years passed. In the financial world, 2 years can be an eternity, a full cycle of boom and bust. For Stewardship Advisory Group, it was the time we needed to transform from a desperate startup into a quiet, respected pillar of the Chicago financial community. Our modest office had been replaced by a larger, more dignified suite of rooms on a higher floor of the same building, with a proper conference room and space for the small, dedicated team of like-minded advisors we had carefully hired. We had grown not through aggressive marketing, but through the most powerful force in our business, the quiet, confident referrals from our secure and satisfied clients. We had become a sanctuary, a place where people came not to get rich quick, but to sleep well at night. The final, inevitable fate of our old firm was delivered to me in a small article in the business section of the newspaper. The headline was stark: Vector Financial to close Chicago office. Cites restructuring after regulatory fines. The article detailed the aftermath of the market crash 2 years prior. The Vector Digital Asset Alpha Fund had collapsed so spectacularly that it had triggered a class action lawsuit from investors who claimed they had been pushed into a product that was wholly unsuitable for their risk profile. The investigation had revealed a systemic, high-pressure sales culture, Derek had been fired and was now facing a 5-year ban from the securities industry. The once proud name of Stanton and Pierce was officially gone, its 70-year history erased, its legacy consumed, and then discarded by the very disruptors who had promised a brighter future. I folded the newspaper, feeling not a sense of triumph, but a quiet, somber validation of the choice we had made. The true, full-circle moment of our journey, however, came not from a newspaper article, but from a phone call. Our receptionist buzzed my office one afternoon. "Robert," she said, "there's a Mr. and Mrs. Wilson here to see you. They don't have an appointment, but they said it's important." The Wilsons. The couple I had seen being pushed into the crypto fund by the young, aggressive advisor on the eve of our departure. I felt a knot tighten in my stomach. I told her to send them in. The couple who walked into my office looked different from the confident, hopeful people I remembered. They looked older, smaller, their faces etched with a deep, weary anxiety. "Mr. Miller." "Robert," Mr. Wilson began, his voice hesitant. "We're so sorry to bother you. We know we're not your clients anymore, but we didn't know who else to turn to." I gestured for them to sit. "It's no bother at all. What can I do for you?" Mrs. Wilson's eyes filled with tears. "We lost everything, Robert," she said, her voice cracking. "When the market crashed, that crypto fund, it was all gone in a matter of days. Nearly half of our retirement savings. The young man who was our advisor stopped returning our calls. The firm sent us a letter full of legal jargon, and then, nothing. We were left, completely alone." I listened as they recounted their story, a heartbreaking tale of broken trust and shattered dreams. They had been forced to sell their home, to postpone their retirement indefinitely. They weren't there to blame me. They were there for the one thing Vector Financial had never offered them: honest advice. "We just want to know if there's anything left to salvage," Mr. Wilson said, a look of quiet desperation on his face. "Is it too late for us to start over?" In that moment, I saw the absolute clarity of our mission. This was why we had built this place. I called Helen and David into my office. We sat with the Wilsons for the next 2 hours. We didn't talk about products or funds. We talked about their lives, their fears, their new, more modest goals. We didn't make any grand promises. We simply offered them a plan. A slow, careful, realistic plan to rebuild, to create a new, more secure foundation for their future. When they left, they had a thin folder in their hands, but a spark of hope had returned to their eyes. After they were gone, Helen turned to me. "Their account is much smaller now," she said softly. "It's barely profitable for us to manage." "I know," I said, "and we will treat it as if it is the most important account in this firm." David nodded in silent, firm agreement. That was the steward's promise. Later that evening, I stood at my office window, looking out at the glittering lights of the Chicago skyline. I thought of my journey from the bitter sting of betrayal in a stuffy conference room to this quiet, purposeful moment. My vindication was not in the newspaper article detailing Derek's failure. It was in the quiet gratitude in Mrs. Wilson's eyes. It was in the knowledge that we had built a place that could help them rebuild their lives. Harold Stanton's real legacy, I realized, was never the name on the door. It was a philosophy, a simple, powerful belief that our work was, at its heart, a sacred trust. We hadn't just escaped a toxic work environment. We had rescued that legacy from the wreckage and given it a new, stronger home. I thought of my own future, of the clients who depended on us, of the firm we were building. It was a future built not on the shifting sands of market trends, but on the solid bedrock of integrity. And I knew, with a quiet, profound satisfaction, that it was a future that was built to last.